welcome to the EST Hangout.
This is the EST Hangout, and today's guests are...
A very good Tuesday morning to you. It is S these days. Welcome to the EST Hangout presented by Sentinel Storage, live right here on Edmonton Sports Talk. Your clear choice for Edmonton sports. We appreciate everyone for listening across the Edmonton Sports Talk audio streams, edmontonsportstalk.com, TuneIn, iHeartRadio, Apple Music. Thank you to everyone for watching on YouTube or listening to this on a podcast. Thank you very much. Tom Gazzola, Matt Iwanyk with you here. And also back on the Hangouts. Usually when he comes on, we say he's from Postmedia, Steven Sandor. He's been an author for a long time, but author of a brand new book. It's Leveling the Ice, Confronting Racism in Hockey. It is on sale very, very soon. If you go to the chapters or Amazon, you can put in your purchase as here it is. It is. We had you on one of your first Hangouts.
Yeah.
And you talked about you were writing this book.
Yep.
There's the real copy right there on the YouTube, on the table in front of us. But back on the show, Steven Sandor. Steve, how are you?
I didn't even know there was going to be a hardcover until they sent that to me. I was like, wow,
Oh, yeah?
there's a
That's
hardcover.
thought it was-
legit, the hardcover.
Yeah.
You thought it was only going to be
Best.
soft cover?
Yeah, I thought I had no, I don't know.
I refuse to buy a soft cover.
Yeah.
If I'm going to buy a book, I want the hardcover.
Yeah, well, no, I'm all over the place, but right now it's books stacked up against the walls and things like that. So working through it. But yeah, it's exciting. It feels a bit unreal because this, of anything I've written, probably newspaper, magazine, or book-wise, this is the biggest labor of love and also probably the most stressful project I've ever worked on.
You've been working on this for a couple of years.
Yeah, because obviously it's tense, and at first there was some reticence from Canadian publishers because Canadian publishing, I know we like to talk about Canada as being this wonderful liberal place, but because Canadian publishing is quite small and the margins, like they have to know what they're going to make, it tends to be very safe and somewhat conservative. They don't tend to take a lot of chances, and so when you're writing a book about race in hockey, the expectation might sort of be that you're going to be a little bit like, hey, look, there's these players of color now playing and racism is solved and let's all sing Kumbaya and be happily ever after. And when it's a really difficult topic, it was really nice. And I have to really credit my agent at the Rights Factory, Wayne Arthurson, and really putting together something with Beacon Press in the United States to get this done. And yeah, it was... And the support I've got from Beacon Press has been outstanding in terms of just write what you see. Don't hold back. And then, it's a matter as a white writer writing about race.
Yeah, how'd that go over? I'm kidding.
No. It's actually, you don't have to kid about it because it is like it's a discussion you have to have. And there's some players before they would talk, they've needed to feel a level of trust with me, where I would talk about my own kids being mixed, being in a family that's not white. That was an important part of it, but as well, just the ability to want to say, hey, that I understand that there's some issues here, that I'm understanding that some of the things that I am guilty of as someone who's been around hockey for decades. And I realize now there are things that I'm very, very guilty of, making assumptions and sort of looking at hockey's progress over the years when it comes to diversity and diversifying the game and thinking that it was doing pretty well. Like, it's doing pretty good, right? Like, you had that spot with the Oilers, when they had 4 or 5 players of color on the team. Probably late 90s, early 2000s.
Yeah, Joaquin was part of that, right?
Yeah. And then you thought, oh, look at this. Like, and you sort of pat yourself on the back. And, we're still at an average right now in the NHL. If you look at the number of players' colors, it's just less than 1 per team, if you averaged it out. Obviously, there's some teams who have multiple players of colors, but a lot of teams that are as white as the Morgan Wallen concert was on Friday, right? Like it is a white thing, right? And so you kind of look at that, and I think the biggest thing, and I'm kind of ranting here. There have been other things written about, does hockey have a race problem? Does hockey have a race problem? A lot of really good books out there, a lot of really great material out there, magazine articles, movies, about does hockey have a race problem? But I think I'm coming at it from a different angle, speaking to the NHL, speaking to Hockey Canada, speaking to USA Hockey. They have now accepted that hockey has a race problem. So if you're out there thinking that, this is overblown, hockey doesn't have a race problem. No, why do you think the NHL hired Kim Davis to be its vice president, who was a civil rights leader and such, and is now leading the charge on diversity and inclusion, and she's featured a lot in this book? Why did USA Hockey hire Stephanie Jackson to go after diversity and inclusion? Why is Irfan Chowdhury, who's from here in Edmonton at MacEwan University, Hockey Canada's vice president, diversity? Because they realize there's a problem. They realize they have a massive problem, that the game has not advanced fast enough in terms of being more diverse and reaching other communities. So this book kind of comes from the perspective that, yes, hockey now accepts, its leadership accepts that it has a massive race problem. And this is what their roadmap is to try to solve it or try to address it. But are the grassroots and certain teams and certain organizations going to come along? Right? And it's one thing to say, hey, we're going to do this. We're going to be more diverse. We're going to be more open. But when you're asking people who have some long-held beliefs or long-held, ways of doing things, right? Just think about minor hockey organizations where it's like, hey, we need more volunteers. You just tap the guys you all know. Yeah. You don't go looking outside your community saying, hey, we need to go look for different people to be involved in our minor hockey organization. You just don't do that because you don't have time to do it. Until we start embracing those things, those changes don't necessarily happen.
We'll continue having this book. Just a reminder, we will talk Estes later in the show today as well. We'll get into some Oilers talk. Lots of sports to get to. Today, reminder on the Estes, 6 o'clock. For Doors 7 o'clock show, and I'll be fascinated to talk to you about our award show a little bit later because you've been a part of some things with Edify and stuff. So, because you've put on various things, but okay. So back for this book, okay, let's just start with you just don't know. People could go purchase it now.
Right, you can order it right now. The release date is September 16th. But publishing is an inexact. It's not like when records get put out or a movie gets put out. There's printing, getting books into stores. So it's sometime this next couple of weeks, but like September 16th is the official day that it's out, but it might take a few more days to filter into stores. But you can order it now and go to your local bookstore or
Audrey's Books if they get it.
Great bookstore.
Well, you could go into Audrey's and ask them to
right next
bring
door
it in.
to Audrey's now.
Yeah, I was in there on Sunday.
Yes, I live right next door to them now.
That's a bookstore, man. Yeah. That's legit.
If it's got a basement, then the bookstore is legit. Like if it has like a basement that you can go in and sort of just like hang out. But I'm deadly in bookstores because like I just like it's like my crack. Like where it's like I go in and then I end up buying 5 things I never knew that I wanted or needed or had to have.
Books are very important. Yeah, reading expands the mind, man. And
my girlfriend, we've gone into Audrey's Books a few times, and she just wants books.
Is she part of a book club?
No, she's not. But she just buys books. And we actually went WeBook in and Audrey's Books this weekend. She bought a bunch. I bought a couple of things, but she bought a few books. But it's just books. It's books.
I usually right now I'll read about 4 or 5 at a time. Like I have 4 or 5 going at a time. Yeah. Like I used to be the one book at a time person, but now it's sort of like television where it's like I have to have this going. Usually,
I need to do that.
So like
I sometimes struggle finishing a book just because like I don't know, and then it's like I don't want to start another one because I haven't finished this book. Yeah, but maybe I do. I need to do the same thing where it's like,
I'll tell you that it actually helps because it gives you a bit of a distraction. You start the next thing, and you sort of are into that, and then you go back to that book. If you're good at sort of remembering where you were, right, and then sort of, I like to have like a couple different things going on.
You're juggling a few different ones at the same time.
Yeah, so it just keeps different parts of the brain going. So, it's not for everyone.
No, there's one soccer book I'm trying to get through, but it's very technical. And anytime I go back to it, it's like, I got to start this from the beginning because I don't know what I've missed and stuff. Inverting the pyramid.
Oh yeah, Jonathan Wilson.
It's very technical.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to remember where I was, but I feel like at some point I'm just like, screw the early parts of this.
Yeah.
Let's just keep going.
I'm John Perlman, Rick Riley, Steve Sandor kind of guy. Though.
Yeah, there you go. Thanks.
Okay, so now I will start like, so some might just look at me like, oh, white guy talking about racism in hockey. You didn't just write about this with your pontificating for an entire book. You spoke to people and this isn't a book full of unnamed sources or anything.
No.
You spoke with names when it came to this.
This all became like when I started when I was with Edify magazine and the editor of that, few years ago, we did a couple years ago, 3 years ago, 4, I don't even know now. After COVID, didn't you find that your sense of time is totally destroyed? You don't know, you can't use time as a time frame.
It's a blur, that block of time.
And so you sort of say like, oh, that was 2 years ago. No, it was 5 years ago. But it's, did a cover story with Darnell Nurse. It was after he signed the big contract, and he wanted to talk about his community, the stuff he was doing with free play, that show how he was really entrenched in the community. And then we got into discussion about race. Darnell's an interesting example because he's not like a lot of other hockey players of color because he comes from a very well-known sports family, right? Like his dad played for the Hamilton Tiger Cats, right? Like his mom was a well-known college basketball or university basketball player. And like obviously through his family, sisters, cousins, Uncle Donovan McNabb. That's not small potatoes in the world of athletics, right? And with Sarah Nurse, Kia Nurse, like the full family, sisters, cousins, what have you. But still he talked about race, and we started talking more about it. Like I started talking more with other people, and is there a deeper book here? If other players would talk. And as it happened, started winning the trust of some players. And slowly but surely the interviews started to happen. And the discussions around race were not really what I expected at first. Because some of the stuff is subtle. Some of the stuff is not like, some of the stuff is not what you think it would be. Because I think sometimes, and I think, again, a big part of the problem is that white people, we have a real problem talking about race. It becomes an uncomfortable thing. It's like something we just don't talk about, right? It's even though we need to talk about it. Like people of color have no problem talking about race, but white people do. It's almost like we do this "we see no color" kind of thing, which is absolute crap. The fact is, we need to be comfortable talking about racial bias. Everyone needs to be. And once I think athletes saw that I was really comfortable talking about it. Yeah. It started becoming a comfort level, but you have to win trust. Like there were some players that said like, hey, I got to get to know you first before we're going to get into this about race. And I got to know you're legit. And I just got to know. And that was fair. I didn't argue with it once. And then some players were just absolutely great in sharing stories, from Matt Dumba to Zach Whitecloud. And I had a great roundtable with PK Subban and Anson Carter. We just sat around in a Zoom call for probably an hour and a half, just they were swapping stories, and like they're playing off each other, talking about their own experiences growing up in the Toronto area, again, which you think is like the most diverse area in Canada, and still talking about their experiences and coming up through hockey and, the struggles that they faced. Both as skill players coming up in a time where outside of a couple of players, players of colors were typecast. They needed to be fighters, right? Like, Anson Carter talked about growing up, all the players of color that he saw in the NHL were tough guys, right? Like it was the Peter Worrells of the world, the Donald Brashears of the world. Like it was almost like this unwritten code that if you were a player of color in hockey, you had to fight. And so they talked about growing up as skill players and being encouraged even by coaches all the way. You got to drop the gloves. You got to be a fighter. And they're like, but we're not that. Like that's not our skill set. And so those are the kind of subtle racist things that happen. And it's probably not even subtle is the right word, but Mark Fraser, former Oiler, Toronto Maple Leaf, New Jersey Devil. He's now with the Toronto Maple Leafs front office in diversity, and he talked about growing up in Ottawa. Again, the son of a decorated Olympic athlete.
That's right.
Right? Like his dad eventually became part of Hockey Canada. But he talked about growing up, and I'm paraphrasing what he said to me. But he said, growing up, coaches identified that they know that you're kind of special, and what have you. And he was warned, like, don't mess it up. Like, don't give coaches a reason to not like you, which was basically code for them telling him,
it's because you're black.
Yeah, he said I basically became, and I the exact quote, but it's something like the most palatable version of a black person for a white person in the dressing room.
So he had to conform himself.
He said, now if you see Mark, he's wearing dreads and such, you cut him off. No hint of his Jamaican heritage, right? Like, just nothing of it. Like, and it's even things like, hey, the player of the game gets to pick the music in the dressing room.
Make sure you pick.
I'm not going to pick reggae. You guys go ahead and listen to your Nickelback, right? Like, I'm not going to be like...
Or Morgan Wallen.
Yeah, more Morgan Wallen. And okay, and I'm making fun here, right? But
yes, that's okay. I made fun of Morgan Wallen all day
it's
I think he's doing okay.
Yeah, he's doing okay.
We don't think yesterday.
He is a tremendous business property.
No, it's exactly. Morgan Wallen, it's as white as a Rush show, except there's girls there.
That's right.
Right? Like, there's that's just the thing, right? Like, and that's fine for what have you. But like when Matt Dumba talked about he has family who still felt uncomfortable going to the rink to watch him. This is when he was in Minnesota, saying because just if they don't feel like they fit in.
You were the one. I think we're in the press box one night, and you were telling me it's like, what did you tell me about Matt Dumba? The misconception about him. That
he said he gets called racial slurs aimed at black people, even though he's Filipino.
Exactly.
Right. And he said, like, and who's the comedian I'm thinking of? The Pakistani American comedian who says, "What really bothers me about racism is people who can't get their racism right." Right. But it's like and he would get it, and he'd be like, "I'm Filipino."
Yeah.
Right? Like, and he comes from a very interesting family, right? Like, through his grandparents, in Saskatchewan, they adopted a bunch of kids of different races. So he has aunts, uncles, cousins who are of different races. And that was used against him. He said growing up in Prince Albert and then eventually in Calgary, used against him. Like kids would just lay into him. And he talked about, very frankly, about how difficult that was. And he actually posed it to me if it was all worth it. Like, actually thinking making millions of dollars as an NHLer for like the mental stress or the heck I was put through. He says, sometimes I wonder if it was worth it. And so I think that is like the kind of messages that are out there. And again, I don't think it's like 20 years ago where there was intentional racism, like the stuff that George Laraque faced, like in Montreal, where he had entire crowds chanting the N-word at him. And, when he's like a 12 and 13-year-old kid. And like his parents stopped going to games because they couldn't take it. Yeah. And they begged him to stop playing hockey.
That was in his book, I think, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, it's also he talked about it. Yeah. And because they stopped supporting his hockey, he would actually get hand-me-down sticks and like keep them taped together, like rebuild broken sticks because he couldn't afford it because his parents had totally withdrawn from supporting his hockey career because they just couldn't stand it. They said stick with soccer because he was also a good soccer player because there you're not going to get it, or football, but like not like. But he stuck with it. We don't see that kind of overt racism now. And I think some of the stuff too is people understand like, hey, it's well-meaning, and like that understanding, okay, I'm going to use an example off the top of my head, and I think people might think it's ridiculous, but when you think about it from the other perspective, is you understand you may have one kid with religious dietary restrictions on your team. And I know I've even had to juggle this as a soccer coach in Edmonton, as a minor soccer coach, is you have dietary restrictions, religious restrictions, kids of different faiths. So you have the team pizza party. You're like, except now we're going to have to make a special thing for our one kid yay, to make sure the food is halal or kosher, and we're going to make a special order for them. And you think you're being inclusive, but you're actually making them feel like they're kind of in the way.
They're different.
They're different. And this is where you have to start thinking as a coach or as a volunteer that maybe the pizza party as a whole is not the place to do this. Like, it has to be another team building exercise. Because as much as the players, like, and a lot of them would say to me, I just wanted to be number blank on the team, left winger. Here's your job. This is what I want you to do on the ice. Thanks, coach. Because when those sometimes in trying to make the allowances, we kind of say, hey, look at how welcoming we're being. But when we have to make allowance after allowance after allowance, it probably shows us the way we're doing things is probably the wrong thing if we have to make so many allowances because of it. It's like Howard Bryant, who's a sports writer that everyone should read. I've been reading a lot of his stuff. He comes out of Boston, writes a lot about race and sport, writes a lot of challenges, a lot of notions about what it's like to be an athlete of color and a sports writer of color. A lot of uncomfortable stuff. If you read his stuff, you'll never see the national anthem or military appreciation nights the same way again from his perspective. But he wrote in his thing that we've gotten so comfortable in society when the kid runs a lemonade stand to raise money for their mom's cancer operation, or of course he's American, so he's writing about that, or for a charity fundraiser. Whatever happened to the days when kids used to have lemonade stands because they were trying to buy a bike, like the good old days? Like he said, it shows you the system is broken. The system is inherently broken when we have to have so many charities, like when we have to have Jumpstart, when we have to have charities that exist, like the Hockey Diversity Alliance. It shows us how broken the system is. Because we shouldn't need to have this many things, right? We shouldn't have to have this many barriers for kids to play sport. We shouldn't have this many barriers for kids of color to get into hockey or other sports. But the fact is we do. So we feel good about ourselves saying, look at all these programs we've created, instead of creating all these wonderful and needed programs, shouldn't we address the root cause? Like, shouldn't we change the system itself?
How dare you use logic?
Like, shouldn't we change the first thing?
Yeah.
Rather than putting a bunch of Band-Aids on things. And this is where it gets
fix the foundation of the house as opposed to just repairing the walls over and over and over again.
But we just keep putting fresh paint job on it and saying, okay.
That crack's still there, but
it's still flooding. It still floods every rainfall. But and that is the discussions that we need to have and understand that it's difficult. And again, there's a lot of myths we like to tell ourselves about hockey, and about that we make ourselves feel good, because I think there's that myth that exists in Canada, that it's the rink is this very homey place. Everyone's drinking Tim Hortons, and everyone's getting along and fist bumping each other, when it's really just a bunch of parents who are just like nuts. And no one's drinking Tim Hortons. They're all drinking Starbucks. They all drove there in their $100,000 pickups or their BMW SUVs. You're not going to see too many Toyotas in the parking lot, right? There's not that's not the income bracket that it is. Yeah. And I think we have a lot of misconceptions out there about what the rink is. And again, this is something that Anson talked about quite a bit, even saying, hometown hockey, there's this myth about the good old Canadian farm boy, right? Everything is the Canadian, or the kid from the American from Minnesota or Michigan, or the kid from Saskatchewan, Manitoba. And he goes, and it's all wonderful. It's a lot of it's true. The kid that came from, but how come hometown hockey never came to Scarborough and talked about all the black players who came from Scarborough, and talked to how come whenever Hockey Night in Canada would show parents when they scored, how many times they showed my parents? 0. How come? And he said that really bothered me. He said, how come hometown hockey could never be once in the inner city somewhere of any major Canadian city, saying there's hockey here too. It's always, and it said perpetuated the myth of the white Canadian farm boy being the stereotypical hockey star. or at best the suburban kid, right? But he said, like, even in the media for the longest time, we were perpetuating these myths. And Irfan Chowdhury, and I'm ranting again here, he said, if you want to think about how strong myth making is, he goes, to make it easier for a white person to understand, think of Don Cherry in the 1980s. Finns and Swedes were white people, but he turned so many Canadians against them by saying they were cheap, didn't have heart, they weren't tough. And he said, and if they were tough, they were dirty, right? And he said, Don Cherry turned that myth like into this whole reality amongst people in their heads that somehow Scandinavian players were soft, that they weren't tough. And we know that is anyone who's been around the game. Mm-hmm. I'm going to tell you, folks, being around the NHL, once you've been around it for 20 some years, ain't too many soft people in dressing rooms. Okay, I'm telling you right now, there might be varying levels of toughness, but most of these guys, like, they can take pain like no one's business, and they want to be on the ice. They want to make a difference. And, you know, there was a stereotype that existed, but he said, like, if he was successful turning white people against white people, think how easy it is to turn the conversation against people of color. And that to me was a powerful analogy to say, hey, and then looking at, you know, you look at examples in my own career where I realized I probably treated a player of color differently in an interview than I did a white player. And that happens.
John Alberta in the Nasty Chat, he does have a question about the book of, did you at all look at what happened with Bill Peters and how he treated players of colors? Was that part of this book at all?
Peters is part of it. And I actually admitted that a couple of years before this happened, for another magazine, I wrote a profile of Bill Peters, which was very, very positive because, like, the stuff hadn't come out yet, but I hadn't done enough, you know, my own fault. I didn't do enough deep digging on him. But I did speak. The problem with Bill Peters is it's the classic white apology, right? When he apologized at first, when the Flames decided that he was going to go, and he made his apology for what had happened in Rockford under his watch to Akeem Aliu. If you read his apology, he goes, I'd like to apologize to the fans, whatever. He never apologizes to Akeem. He never apologizes to the person he wronged. He apologizes to the Flames organization. He apologizes to the fans. It's the classic white racism apology where you apologize I'm sorry you were offended by me, or like, you know, I'm sorry that I did this to a greater good, but you can't look the person in the eye to whom you wronged and say,
I'm sorry I hurt you.
I did this. Mm-hmm. I have to take accountability for it. And now he's, you know, trying to mend fences now that, you know, when he went back to Lethbridge and saying that, you know, he'd done all of these courses and he wanted to meet Akeem. But you have to understand that after so many years, like, if you're Akeem Aliu, you're like, now? Right? Mm-hmm. Like, you had so many opportunities. And now? And again, Bill Peters got another chance, right? And I'm not saying that we always talk about second chances. And the Bill Peters got another chance. Had a black coach, wronged a player. I guarantee you in the NHL, it would have been a coach of color, had wronged a player in some way, ain't coming back, right? Wow. Now, you can argue there are second chances. People will say Evander Kane is an example of second chances, right? But Evander Kane lives with the criticism and the scrutiny every day, right? Like, he can never shake anything. So if I would say to you, there was another player in the NHL in about 1999, 2000, had been caught, had millions of dollars in gambling debts, admitted he had a giant gambling problem. He had an IRS debt in the millions. The NHL did not suspend him, did not do anything. Do you know what his name was? Jaromir Jagr. in the NHL. Does anyone ever out there criticize
don't
Jaromir
remember
Jagr's character? Did he ever have to hear about it?
Yeah.
He had a big gambling problem.
Yeah, but
I
did
remember
he
that.
ever hear about it? You see, you don't even remember. You know why you don't remember about it? Because we didn't make him relive it every day. And this is what we call in the book, and Irfan Chowdhury at McCune University teaches this, white leniency, where white people are really great at being lenient with white people, right? Whereas even if a player of color gets another chance, which they can, or anyone of color in their job or workplace, but they're made to never forget the indiscretion, right? It's always, you did this, you'll never live it down. The NH, I love, second chances are important. I'm not the kind of person that thinks that anyone should be buried or what have you. But we know, and I'm going to say it, and I'm probably going to hear it, but we know there was some problem in the Oilers organization who killed someone as an impaired driver. Absolutely got a second chance. Deserved a second chance. I absolutely support that he got a second chance. But we don't talk about it, right? We don't bring it up. Danny Heatley, stunt driving. Whatever you want to say about that he was forgiven for what he did. He pancaked his high-performance sports car, endangering the public at large in a suburban community. Again, Danny Heatley was a player of color. He ain't ever coming back, and he's going to jail. But he was a white player who got forgiveness, said he was sorry, and somehow even engineered leaving Atlanta and having a fresh start in Ottawa. I'm not saying these are things that are wrong. Again, he was forgiven by the letter of the law. He did what he was supposed to do. But are these chances given in the same way? And when you think about this, you think about those second chances as opposed to Evander Kane's second chance or third chance, whatever you want to call it, where he's always had to live with the scrutiny. And I remember, and I said this at the press conference with Evander Kane, I stood up with Canadian Press and said, what would you like to say to fans who wouldn't trust you or like who feel that this is the wrong signing? And that wasn't wrong because Evander had a history. I got up and I think I asked a fair question. The problem is years ago, I worked for the Prague Post. I did string work for the English paper there. I used to talk to Jaromir Jagr all the time, and I never held him to account the same way. And the fact is, it's not that I asked Evander Kane that question. It's the fact that I never was as tough with Jaromir Jagr, saying, you have to talk about your gambling problem. Mm-hmm. Do you have a gambling problem? I asked him once about it, and he laughed it off, and I let him laugh it off, and it was fine. But there was no further discipline for him. He never had to face the music. He never had his career stained by it, right? And that is the difference. It is the same thing, and the studies have been done in the United States with how athletes are criticized on NFL broadcasts. And I ask you the same question. If let's say Brock Purdy, or if it was Brock Purdy or Justin Herbert throws an interception, goes to the bench, throws his helmet. Chances are the broadcasters say he's competitive, is mad at his own mistake. That's his competitive fire. Lamar Jackson does the same thing. Then he's a problem player.
Well,
is he a problem on the team?
A number of years ago, this happened. Serena Williams got ripped at the U.S. Open because she smashed a stick or her racket and stuff, and she was called erratic and all that stuff. But then Andre Agassi in the past, or Pete Sampras in the past, or John McEnroe in the past, it's fiery. This is passion. And there was at that point that I remember that one. That was everyone was ripping Serena at that time, but we never ripped the white tennis player, male one, for doing it. We've praised them and we've built their careers up off of it.
Yeah, John McEnroe and Jimmy Connors, that was Tuesday. Smashing a racket or yelling at a umpire or doing that. And again, that's a different level of criticism. Again, I think that we have to understand that if we're handing out second chances or third chances or what have you, it has to be done equally. And if we allow a player that's white to sort of move on, we have to be willing to let the player of color move on. And we know that Evander wasn't allowed to move on. And I did that big feature with him with Postmedia.
You just did a piece with him this summer.
He asked me, he came to me and said, I want to talk. And I said, okay. And, to my own horn, I do have a level of trust now with players of color in the league. And they know. Mm-hmm. And when, he was criticized for not being out for the handshake. And he said, again, is this, I asked him flat out, do you think the criticism that came because he said, when you throw out of a game, you don't go back out for the handshake. No one does. I was already changed. It wouldn't be right. It wouldn't have been right for me to go out for the handshake. I was thrown out of the game. And I asked him what he thought about that. And we started talking. It's probably cultural. That probably the reason the criticism is so strong is because he wasn't a white player. And, that we get into these discussions, these uncomfortable discussions about race, and about, and it follows athletes that there's this level of expectation that you're just being scrutinized at a different level. And that's at the big league level, but it's scrutinized at a different level. But I kind of use that example, and I use that example for all of the listeners. If you want to talk about Evander Kane, well, then think about the comparison to Jaromir Jagr. And I know Jaromir Jagr is a Hall of Fame talent. Is one of the and again, nothing against
still
him.
playing.
He's still playing, and you know what? He's a legend. But I'm just saying, we allowed him to move on.
Well, we've let it go. We stopped thinking about it or didn't know of it. We did that. That's not the same with some other players, and we just need to. Yeah. If we're going to forgive. But if we're not going to forgive, then we got to do it the other way too.
Forgiveness tends to come on a scale when it comes to the color of skin. And that took me a long time to reconcile myself, and in the book, I talk about my own warts. And I say that's one thing that I really think about is the difference in how I treated a very similar story between two players, one who was white and one who was black. And I'm not, and I kind of said, this is on me. Like, I understand this now, that I had a race problem in that situation. Not because of this, but because of how I had that white leniency, right?
Yeah.
As you've gone through this book, you talked about how you got more, various athletes opened up to a little bit more. They got to know you. So there was a little bit more of acceptance. You just said that you might have you got the in with some of the colored people in the game. Did you face any roadblocks as you were going? Because this is, you said, like a 2-year project, 3-year project.
Yeah.
Did somebody all of a sudden find out, Steve Sandor, he's working on this book, and roadblocks started coming up as you were going across with this?
Definitely when you're approaching the PR departments of 32, and it wasn't all teams, but majority of them, when you're approaching them, the level at which of seriousness, I should just say that at which they treated, when you said, like, to talk to this player, would they be comfortable? Could really even get a sense of the organizations, how they saw this as a talking point, and how they saw this as a problem or a non-problem. And Kim Davis even talks about this in the book. It's the NHL sets an agenda, but and I think the problem that a lot of people see is that the 32 teams act very independently of each other, right? It's not like the NHL can only lasso them together so much.
There's not a conference call once a week where they all sit on the table. Okay, how are we doing this? How are we doing that? And working in sync on things.
If you don't do this, you're going to be in trouble, right? Mm-hmm. So example, this is why certain teams have, I think, really struggled with connecting when it comes to diversity or making fans think that they're serious about it. And there's other teams, and I'm not going to make this a race between teams, but certainly I have to say the Vegas Golden Knights went above and beyond, like right away. And like right away, like, what do you need? And clearly they said, like, we talked to Zach, because I had asked about Zach Whitecloud, because he'd been posting a lot of things on his social media about truth and reconciliation, and about Kamloops, and about residential schools, and about his family's history with residential schools. And yeah, he was one of the players that said, hey, next time in Edmonton, come to the skate. I just want to get to know you. just chat with you for a few minutes. And then after that, the Golden Knights got back to me, said, Zach's comfortable doing this, and they were very clear. And they talked to me about, this is really important for our market. Like the Latino market and the Indigenous market in Nevada is huge.
Yeah.
He said, like, while Zach is Sioux Dakota, there is Cherokee, Navajo in Nevada,
and Arizona,
his story
yeah,
resonates. His story resonates. And Zach even told me, like, he was amazed at how supportive, like, because as a hockey player, to start talking about truth and reconciliation, and he said, because his dad said, it's funny, we have so many elders in our community, knowledge keepers, but because you play hockey in the NHL, you have a megaphone that most of our people do not have. And he said, I chose to use it. And just to educate people. I wanted to, and especially in the United States, where everyone thinks everyone in Canada gets along and we're all famous and we have nothing in our history that is negative, that everything was done through polite negotiation, and that we're the most boring people because everything was done. And to have this sort of history of residential schools and our treatment of Indigenous people in this country was an eye-opener. And the Golden Knights said, tell your story. And I thought the most, and I actually called them after they won the Stanley Cup. They posted, just like every team, they'll post videos of their Players' Day with the cup. And Zach took it back to southern Manitoba. And there was a couple images, him at the First Nation, the drums coming in, people gathered in, like, there was this giant circle, and him holding the cup. Because he said, like, this is the community. So much of the community supported him during his minor hockey career when everyone thought he was never going to make it. He was playing, like, bouncing around team to team, and just stuck with it, right? And his parents were super rich. The community gathered money to help him, on his hockey journey. So he brought it back to say, this is me, right? This is my way of thanking the community. And there was a great video afterwards. He went to the local 7-Eleven and filled it with Slurpee for him and his buddies. If you can go back to the Vegas Golden Knights social media account, this is great for two reasons. One is filling it with the Slurpee for him and his buddies. But there's a worker there, like some guy in his blue overalls, who seems absolutely oblivious as he's getting a drink, that this is like Zach, the Stanley Cup is like in the 7-Eleven.
He's grabbing something. With
it's almost like, dude, I want a Slurpee too.
You're taking a little long.
Yeah, it's like, can I pay for my gas?
I need to get to the blue raspberry.
This guy makes this whole video. It's like, he's sort of just like off to the corner, like, well, what's this? I'm like, dude, this guy has won this. Clearly, he's won the Stanley Cup and is bringing it in. But
it's like a Stanley Cup parade in Florida.
All Vegas did to caption that, they put an orange heart. Just an orange heart. And I said, that was perfect, guys. You didn't have to proselytize. You didn't have to say anything more. Understanding that speaks to the community. But they talked about, like, I'm just talking about, like, teams that were good. The Canucks were very good. Arshdeep Bains, who's been up from Abbotsford. But a big hope again, like a Sikh kid from the Vancouver suburbs. Like, the fact is they know, and this is something Kim Davis knows, is the money out there that the NHL's missing. The reason it remains number 4 sport in the United States is because it doesn't reach out to people of color in that way. Do you understand if Arshdeep Bains makes it, how many jerseys he's going to sell in Vancouver?
Well, how big of a deal was it when the Abbotsford Canucks won the Calder Cup, and how many guys from the community of South Asian, Drew Jarquet was on that team?
Yeah, and it was Arsh. The story with him is like it's like a community that's waiting to explode. We know how big Hockey Night in Punjabi has become, and that market loves the game. They absolutely love the game. What they're waiting for is a star player, and it's going to happen. It's going to happen, but. I was just, and I had people I talked to in the community. Remember Lolly Tour? We called right after Arsh scored from Apna Hockey, right after Arsh scored his first NHL goal against Pittsburgh. Texting back and forth, like, that's just amazing, right? And we need to have more stories like this, but it will only come when the rinks for for the 5 and 6 year olds feel like they're more welcoming, and that we get over some of the cost barrier stuff. That's a big part of it too. The cost barrier stuff and the and some of the stuff that I think we think about too that creates some real barriers. Like I know I had one set of friends and they were talking about their kids' hockey schedule. And they're saying, oh, he has Tuesday, Thursday practices at 4. I'm like, well, how do you get him there? Well, we get off work early and stuff. I go, but what about the working family where both mom and dad work? How does that work? How do they get their kid to the practice? Well, they have to get them there. No, they don't. What happens is they don't put their kid in hockey. Like that's a big cultural thing. If you're a coach and you're doing practices, and I understand ice time is tough because to schedule for your convenience, don't coach. It's not about your convenience. Because, like, I gotta say it, and even for, like, I see now with my daughter's soccer and stuff, 5 o'clock practices. I'm like, how am I supposed to get her there? Right? Like this is insane. Like, you are compromising people's jobs. But as well, we have to understand that, especially with a lot of newer Canadians, people who are getting to the workforce, people work Saturdays and Sundays now. There's a lot of people who work Saturdays and Sundays. And we have to have alternate hockey programs and sports programming that understands, hey, some parents can't do the weekend tournaments. There's parents who are doctors. And I'm not saying these are all people who work at Tim Hortons, but there are some that are working in restaurants. Restaurants' busiest days are Saturdays and Sundays. They ain't getting out of work.
Yeah.
People who are in emergency services, they might be working. People in the media. I gotta say, like, that's, if you're in the sports media and you got a kid, I'm gonna tell you, it is not easy because you got Saturday, Sunday tournaments, and guess what nights generally we're working? Saturdays. What weekend do you ever have off? Right?
None.
Yeah, right. So
non-existent.
Our weekends are like Tuesday afternoons, right? And that's just the way it goes. And but we have to be more recognize that stuff. But I'm ranting. I'm going into a bunch of different directions. So.
No, this is great. A couple of texts have come in, 780-218-9999. One says, great guest. The other thing, and I'm sure, Steve, like, you've come across it, because this is not a fun, easy, effervescent subject to tackle. There's some people that have texted in and they kind of show their true colors with their responses. And it happens from time to time. I want to point that out, where you see the comments that are made, and it's kind of disappointing. And I think it touches a nerve with them because they don't understand.
Yeah, no, you're always going to get that. I mean, sadly, I mean, I see it in the newspaper. It's Postmedia. It doesn't matter. Like, it doesn't matter if you're writing about hockey or writing about the mayor of this city. Again, you know, I've had people write in and say, hey, I don't like the mayor of this city. And I'm like, that's fine if you don't like his policies or taxes. But if you make it about his race, we're done here. Mm-hmm. We're done here. It's not about his race. If you want to talk about his politics, I'm all here for you. Mm-hmm. And it's still, and it's amazing too, that female politicians, the stuff that I've been shown by them from their social media accounts. Again, like, really, people still write this stuff in this day and age, and it's insane. I guess Matt Dumba said I had to stop having social media, but he said, like, through the teams, and when he's with the Wild Instagram account, messages that would come in.
But the Dumba thing, I think, like, when you told me that people mistook him for a black hockey player and they didn't recognize he was Filipino, I think that speaks to the lack of intelligence, I'm just going to say it, of those people and ignorance, essentially. Yeah. And you're just like, well, you don't even know. It's
there's just, we still get into the dumb stuff. And I think, you know, there was the famous incident with Zach Whitecloud when he scored against the Oilers, right? Remember in the playoffs, and the guy from ESPN said, oh, what a goofy name. Like, you know, and they said, like, it sounded like a toilet tissue, Whitecloud.
Oh, yeah. That's
and
right.
Then he had to go apologize because that was like a big deal. And, you know, I said it to Zach and I wrote in the book, I said, well, the best revenge on the name is it's on the cup forever, right? Like, it's on the cup, right? So you win, right? And again, like, but like stuff like that, we're still in this age where you make fun of someone's name like that, where it's just like, why? It's his name, right? Mm-hmm. Like, it's just, and again, it's stories like that shouldn't be anything short of inspirational, right? Because, like, Zach's story is the guy who was never rated, Never anyone thought that this guy is a prospect, if anything more than maybe an ECHL player. But the classic case of working your tail off, working your way through the minors, getting a shot, staying up, right? And now being a NHL regular, right?
He's a good defenseman.
He's a good defenseman.
Yeah.
You know, he's not flashy, he's not spectacular, but he's gets his job done, and he's going to have a good career. And I mean, again, already got a ring, right? Like you can never take that away from a player. When you get the ring, it's something that's name's on the cup. That's something that is immortal in hockey, and we know that, right? And that's one of the wonderful things, you know, about the cup. And you know, and I do take digs. I know there's going to be American readers, and I do talk about the things in hockey that I love, which is that the names do go in the cup, and that all the other trophies in the 3 other major sports are freaking lame. They're really lame.
Well, they
and
redo
the
them.
presentation ceremonies are lame too. Like giving it to the owner. Like, okay, I get it. He's the owner, but he's some rich guy. He can get it at the end.
Yeah.
Or she can get it at the end.
Well, in those sports, they keep the trophy.
Yeah.
They get a new one every year.
Make a new one.
And so for the owner gets to put that in their office and keep it in their office wherever they want. It's theirs.
There's a joke in soccer that a logo is lame if it has a soccer ball in it, because if you actually have to explain to people that you're a soccer team and you have to have a soccer ball in your logo, you're lame. Just like the trophy. Wow, you win a football on a pedestal? Okay.
Sick.
Yeah, great. We play football. Like, can it be something that's better? Like, that's historic looking or iconic, or, you know, like, okay, we have the thing that
I don't like the commissioner's trophy in baseball.
Yeah.
No,
It just looks weird.
Looks like, well, when George Costanza's dragging one around behind him in his car in the Yankee Stadium parking lot,
Isn't it the Korean baseball league that has a sword? That has like,
see, that's cool.
Has the sword.
Yeah,
it's like the most awesome thing that you win a sword.
I like the World Cup trophy too, because what is it like? It's just the globe being held up.
Yeah,
that's cool.
Oh, geez, that is awesome.
Let's see. Yeah, that's
They're just
amazing.
holding the
It's a huge
sword up as they're celebrating. That looks awesome.
Okay, I'm going to rattle off some texts. Keep them coming in.
wicked.
780-218-9999. We're joined by Steve Sandor. He's got his new book coming out. Leveling the Ice actually comes out today, but
it'll be in stores in the next
ambiguous
little bit.
with the publishing.
You could go find it. Just Google Leveling the Ice. Steve Sandor will be there. Or like if you go to a bookstore, especially Audrey's, just ask for it.
Yep. Greg in the Grove says, this conversation stings. I can't help but think about all the criticism to Darnell Nurse and Ethan Bear and other Oilers of color, and I always thought it was rooted and racism. Let's go to Food Coma. Drew says, great chat with Steve. I'll definitely pick up the book. Thank you, you guys. Dazzler says, I'm a realtor. The abuse my female counterparts take is horrible. And then this one from Pizza Boy, what's up? Says, what a great guest. Very important conversation to have. Thank you. So it's good to see some positive too, because there have been texts that I'm just like, geez, come on, you guys.
But you understand, because it's an uncomfortable discussion, and a lot of times, we like to say race is not the thing when it is the thing, right? And it is, and this is why. Maybe we shouldn't have said that stuff about Morgan Wallen at the start. I don't know, but maybe this is
because it's an easy. It's just,
yeah. But the fact is that, and I get back to this, it's okay for white people to talk about race. It really is, and it actually is. It's once I become comfortable talking about it, now I kind of don't stop talking about it, and you start seeing it more and more in things that you kind of see every day. And it's not just about hockey. But you do recognize that there is definite racial division that happens in everything that we see. And the thing is that white people will do whatever they can to not talk about it, because it's just an uncomfortable discussion for us. We don't think it's for us, when really it's okay. It's okay to sort of say that we understand. And that idea of that white person says, I'm colorblind, I see no color. Well, no, actually, you're supposed to see color. You actually are supposed to see it. It's okay to say that you see it. It's okay it's one thing to belittle it or to degrade it, but to recognize it. It's what our Indigenous communities have been asking for how many generations? Just recognize it. Recognize us, right? It's okay to say, wow, you know, I'd like to learn more about your culture, or I would like to put a hand across. And I understand that we don't come from the same backgrounds. We didn't have the same childhoods, right? And that's okay. And it's okay to say that. You actually make people feel more comfortable when we recognize that, instead of the see no color, stick your head in the sand and pretend like that stuff. If it actually, and you know, if you ever want to sort of really make people mad, that's the kind of stuff you say, because it's almost as enraging as racism itself. Is to sort of say, oh, it's over. It's not me. I couldn't possibly be me. Because get this, when we have to accept the fact, and we have to understand that racism and prejudice are words that are used together, and people think they mean the same thing, but they don't. Racism just generally means anything that benefits one group over the other. And it might not be overt. It might not even be mean-spirited. It's just something that benefits one group over the other, right? You know, is it racist in the United States that white communities get better schools than communities of color? Absolutely, it's racist. You know, is it a function of money and what have you, and the way that taxes are collected? Yeah. Is there, you know, and Howard Bryant wrote about in his book that he was actually one of the kids that was using this pilot project in the Boston area, where they thought this would be a great thing, as they took a group of, again, this is one of those solutions where you're finding a solution to something where you're not dealing with the bigger problem. He wrote about in his book, as I was writing this, reading a lot of his work, they had this program there where they took exceptional black students from black communities and put them into white schools in the suburbs, like, so they would have a better education. Like, this almost understanding that our education system sucks. And it's Tuesday. And instead of like saying, what if we just put more money into the inner city schools and made them better? No, what we'll do is create an exceptionalization, right? That we're going to find the exceptional athlete or the exceptional student and it's no really different when you think of it, the model of finding the exceptional basketball player or football player and saying, you're going to get an education. You're going to do well because you've broken the mold by being exceptional at something and somehow getting out of this rut that 99% of your community will never get out of, right? Instead of saying, let's fix the entire, let's
back to fixing the root, going to this one painting the walls.
Yeah, and this is the problem that we tend to do with race, is that we Band-Aid solution this rather than getting to the root cause of it. So, for example, I don't think, and I've said this to people, I don't think nowadays you would have a coach, let's say in, I don't know, St. Albert Minor Hockey or in Spruce Grove or what have you, that would have a player of color on the ice and say, I'm not picking him because he's no, that wouldn't happen. Right. I really believe that people would be like, this kid's good enough to play. He's going to play. Right. But the problem is that we don't ask, why is there only that one player trying out? Why isn't there a larger group of them trying out? Why is there the one on every team? Why is it still the one or the none? You know, there's not large groups on teams yet. And when you look at Edmonton's breakdown or other Canadian cities, but Edmonton's, especially United States, demographic breakdowns, you'd be like, well, geez, like, the numbers should we don't come close in hockey to matching the community breakdown of race, of class. We don't come close, and it is why I think we have to accept that hockey is having a hard time. And Kim Davis, again, vice president of the NHL, said what I had to convince the owners when she came in was that we have to stop treating race like it's an ethical, moral thing, like it's the right thing to do. No, it's a business decision. We want to sell more jerseys. We want to sell more tickets. And you know what? Have more fans. And you know how you do that? By going to communities you haven't been in and saying, hey, and they're going to want to buy tickets and jerseys. And when you say to them, diversity is not a moral thing. Sure it is, but let's get right down to it. It's a business decision. And the fact is, the other leagues are doing a better job of it than us. Baseball was slow to it, but now baseball is really embracing it. Baseball had this sort of crisis of conscience, I think about 10 years ago, and it took them a long time to embrace the fact that say, wow, this sport's become really Latino. And instead of, it took them a while to kind of go, but our demographic is older and whiter, and it's getting older and whiter. And then finally baseball said, you know what? Let's just embrace the crap out of how Latino our games become. And then the numbers started coming up, right? Because there is a large young Latino. And you know what? They want to cheer for players. They want the swagger. They want the game not to be played with the old rules, the unwritten rules. They want it to have a sense of fun to it, right? They want the home run jackets. They want the celebrations. They want that flair to the game. And the baseball finally went, yeah, this is a good thing for us. And it takes some time to understand that these changes will only add to the business. So, we talk about that because, it's healthy in Canada, right? Like, Oilers aren't having problems selling tickets. The Leafs aren't having problems selling tickets. But in the States still, like, it's doing better. Like, I think with TNT but when you look at the TV ratings, the Stanley Cups are only a fraction of what they did like the 1990s and 2000s, like, and not close to in the States what they did in the 1980s, right? And so you're saying to yourself, okay, part of that is the breakup of media and the fact of streaming and what have you. But the fact is the numbers aren't close, right? And that is, and I think the fact that Connor McDavid doesn't make a list of the 50 most influential athletes in North America should be a problem, because Wayne Gretzky used to make that list. And I'm saying, okay, those are two white athletes I'm comparing. But again, I think it's where hockey sits, right? And this comes back to being more seen as less an elitist sport, because in the States, it's definitely seen as an elitist suburban sport. It is polo on ice.
Well, it's going that way here.
Yeah.
Every team, like, you're hearing parents buying, the craziest story I heard, and I bet this isn't even crazy anymore, was of 4 families buying a home to send their kids to a hockey academy. One parent a month would rotate, live at the house, cook, clean, take the kids to and from the rink. That to me is like insane.
Was it Jason Zucker whose family grew up in Las Vegas and they would fly him for his minor hockey games on the weekends to LA? Because they didn't have a league close by, so they flew him on a weekly basis. Like, put him on an airplane. That's the other thing about hockey that's really interesting is most other sports, and I'm not saying this is baseball, it's somewhat true, but definitely in football and basketball, definitely not soccer. In soccer, it's true. Not true. Definitely in basketball and soccer and in football, we hear stories of kids who came up from nothing and were able to
Snoop Dogg's league.
Yeah.
How many kids does he put into the NFL?
Right? I hate to say this, but like, name me a soccer star who didn't come from a hard like superstar all-time legend who did not come from a hard scrabble life, right? If you ever read Diego Maradona's book and he writes about his poverty growing up, and then you wonder why he was so messed up, like the abject poverty he grew up in. Hockey, there's a lot of players in this league. It's like, what did your dad do for a living? Oh, he's a millionaire. They're quiet about it.
Yeah.
They're quiet about it. And certainly some players, I think, were wrongfully criticized for it. Zach Hyman, right? Because it doesn't take away from the fact that Zach Hyman is an exceptional NHLer. No one think that.
You can't buy your way into the NHL as much.
You can't buy yourself as much.
The skill part.
I think you can. I think you can get with money.
Yeah.
I don't think you can be exceptional in the NHL with money.
You still have to be good enough.
Right?
You can.
But there is an F1 kind of there is a Lance Stroll kind of thing that happens here.
That's
right?
a great analogy. There is some of that.
Where you're not very good at something, but like you somehow have money behind you.
Yeah.
And you get to a level where.
Well,
but like this.
Can I interject really quickly? Like, this summer, I was talking with an executive with one of the NHL teams, and he was telling me how he kept getting calls from a player's dad who had been drafted, didn't really do well at the pro level, and kept pandering for him to sign his kid to a minor league deal. Please, can you sign him to a minor league deal? Please, come on. Like, I've given you this, I've given you that. And it's just like, that does happen. And the dad is a mega millionaire. And it's like, okay.
Yeah. the pressure, there's money that's involved, and as well, like the cost of playing hockey is prohibitive for a lot of families. And one thing that was a little interesting thing, and like I came across because I was talking about the money factor in hockey and just how much it is for skates and sticks, and you know, and the equipment manufacturers, like they're in this game. It's like golf, right? Like a lot of people will say, oh, you know, you're going to buy the latest Titleist balls, and then you have the expert
So
say,
what, Steve?
Yeah,
Maybe I do.
Yeah, but then you read the sports scientists say, well, you have to have a swing speed of this much for this to even matter. You may as well use Canadian Tire balls if you don't have that kind of swing speed. And it's like, oh, really? Like it's that idea the equipment will make you better even if you're a hacker.
Yeah.
When it doesn't, because you actually aren't good enough to make that equipment make a difference, right? And so one of the things was that I read State of Minnesota Hockey saying like, kids under 12 don't need a composite stick. They don't shoot hard enough. They don't actually. They're
only $400 a piece now.
It actually arguably can inhibit their skill when it comes to puck, that they should be using a wood stick until they're 12 years old. This is this is the experts, the people who run Minnesota Hockey, who are saying this. And it's like, we don't listen because there's this race now. And it happens in all sports now. Like I'm guilty. My daughter has $400 soccer shoes, right? She's 13. My son swings a $500 baseball bat and has a $500 glove. We have fed into this. We fed into this myth that somehow equipment will make a 9-year-old better, right? And we get into this myth too about the travel, the rep sports, and I get into this argument with people. You know, Sweden doesn't have rep sports, I think, until their mid-teens. They don't really leave their communities, right? I talked about last year there was 106 Swedes in the National Hockey League, 106
out of 700 and something players.
Yeah,
That's
and it's a country of 10.5 million people. So Sweden is about the same size as New York City. And I said, if there was 100 New Yorkers who were in the NHL, we'd all be going, what are they doing right? Why is their system so good? And part of the Swedish thing is let kids be kids. This dry land training stuff, whatever, when you're 10 years old. It's like, they're like, okay, great. Let your kids be kids. Let your kids, if you remember years ago, there was, and it still produces players. There's a town in Sweden called Örnsköldsvik. I'm probably not pronouncing it properly if you're of Swedish descent and you heard me say that. I apologize for the cultural damage I've just done for saying that. Peter Forsberg's from there. Marcus Naslund's from there. The Sedin twins are from there. And I did a story, magazine piece years ago about why at that one time this Swedish town per capita produced more NHLers and it's a forestry fishing town like northern Sweden. And why the Naslund said, yeah, I grew up down the street from the Forsbergs and the Sedins were down the street like as kids. But we just played with each other. We didn't worry about how good, like we didn't go to a lot of tournament, like a lot of things abroad or what have you. We just competition on the street kind of thing, like going to the local rink and just having fun. And we just had fun. And somehow that bred this whole, but we don't do that. And like, we don't put that sort of pressure on parents and kids at that young an age. Just let us have fun and be creative and just enjoy the game. And that's the different thing from this. But man, and I'm sure everyone sees it. Adults are finding a way to suck so much fun out of minor sports for kids. I don't know if we could give them more structure, make it more less inviting to go to the rink where it feels like it's a job for them. And then we hammer them with responsibility and all of this, and they're like 9. And whatever happened to the kid, who just wanted to be like that star that he watches on TV and try that move, with his buddies or her buddies out there. Try that move, try that thing, try that new thing. We've become so rigid and structured. We've become so unapologetically system oriented. Like I gotta tell you, every time a player says this in the dressing room, I die a little bit inside when they say we stayed in our structure. I'm like, oh God. And people pay to watch this.
Yeah.
People don't pay to watch structure. I'm going to tell you. You know what never makes highlight of the night? Structure.
No one regroup?
No one ever. Oh boy, like no one ever says like, all right, top five zone exits. When when they have a top five zone exits
and out.
I would love that.
Yeah.
Like that would be the thing. But I'm gonna get in ranting to different directions here, but like we are sucking the fun out of this thing.
I agree wholeheartedly. I see the kids. I say it every year when I go to the hockey schools and I help out. Doesn't matter if it's in Canada or the U.S. You see the kids that are having fun. You can see the genuine joy on their face when they're on the ice. And then you see the kids that are just like, oh my God, I'm back at the rink. And then the one that stood out to me, I was like, what do you got going on today, buddy? How you feeling? It's like 8 a.m. First ice session's at 9. He's lugging his wheelie bag in, like just trotting through. And he's like, I'm tired. I'm like, why? From yesterday's camp? Because you're on the ice twice? He goes, no, after camp, I had to go to practice. And I'm like, what? He goes, yeah, I had hockey practice after camp. I'm like, the kid was on for like 4 or 5 hours of ice time, and he's doing it every single day. I'm like, that's not fun. This kid's not going to want to play hockey. And I've seen it multiple times, and you can just tell. You're like, something's completely wrong with this. Anyway, Bonnie Doonrod texting in says, can you please ask Steve what he thinks about the PDP pathway in soccer in Alberta? Is that a money grabber?
I did not set up this question. I did not have a plant out there because, oh boy, I can go on about PDP because I've written about it for the Journal a bit. Maybe that's been seen. So for people that don't know, Canada, and this is a Canada soccer, not just an Alberta soccer thing. Alberta soccer is actually quite against it. Canada soccer is, in its infinite wisdom, years ago decided to create what they call a player development pathway, to sort of identify the better players, and they would be streamed into these elite leagues. So there's the Alberta Premier Development League. I'm going to speak from personal experience here. At age 13. So you can imagine they're streaming kids into this specialized stream at age 13 where there's more travel, more pressure on the kids. There's a reason that 13 is a big quit age for soccer, especially amongst girls. So my daughter was in what they call the pre-PDB program. And boy, is she going to be mad if she hears that I talked about this. But it's important. At her club, the pressure on the 12-year-olds who are in the pre-PDP program, so the ones who identified that they could go to PDP, was insane. The amount of times there were tears after practice, the amount of times that we had parents squabbling with each other we had all sorts of issues. And the pressure was just ridiculous. My daughter in the end did not make the PDP team. So she's been put into their feeder program which I'm actually really happy for. She's going to get more playing time. I hope that she's going to enjoy it more. She loves the game. At some point she said to me, I love this game so much, but I hate the parents and I hate the coaches. And I hate because this is the exact thing where we have pushed so much pressure onto these kids at such a young age. And this whole thing again of trying to professionalize them at such a young age that we are driving kids out of the game and driving families out of the game. And PDP for a lot of parents is prohibitively expensive. It is a few $1,000s a year to put your kids into this program. So once they make it, and there's the feeling that at age 13, you're done. If you don't get on that train now, there's no room for the late bloomers. And that is why kids quit, because the dream kind of dies at way too young an age. And it is, we have got to this point where, and honestly, clubs have to have a certain standing of field availability of professional full-time paid coaches to be PDP. So there's only right now 3 clubs of the 16 in Edmonton that can offer it. There's a few that have applied and looks like they're going to get it. So that also becomes a power struggle that at that age start bringing players in. So Scottish, BTB, and St. Albert Impact become these clearinghouses. So all these other clubs are developing players. And at age 12, it becomes like free agency. Like I used to work phones, like I felt like I was an agent. Because the players, let's say the good players from Warriors, the good players from Victoria, the good players from all the teams that don't have PDP start getting picked off and start moving. And Canada Soccer has understood this is a problem. They've tried to put some rules, but they don't want to stop PDP because they've started this ball rolling, even though some of the provinces have said this is not really healthy. And I don't think it does anything to make our system better. And I think we have to understand that right now, Canada with our national team is in a very, very good spot. And we like to pat ourselves on the back and say, look at our development. But if you take a look at our players that have put Canada where it is, Jonathan David, who left, how old was he? 12? When
he was
left
young.
Ottawa? He wasn't developed here.
In New York?
Well, no, he went to Europe. He was born in New York, then grew up in Ottawa, and then Alphonso Davies is an outlier. Like, that's just an exceptional
He's a
talent.
kid sport kid, isn't he?
Yeah, he's an exceptional talent.
Yeah.
But he's an exceptional talent that was an exceptional talent despite he would have been an exceptional talent no matter where he grew up.
Yeah.
You have so many players in this team that had upbringing sort of outside the traditional Canadian soccer sort of system. So we can't say this the system that's made Canada right now what it is. That only comes with generations. You have to have the generations of being good, where you say our system is good. Whereas like France, you don't have volunteer coaches involved. You don't have and I go, people go, it's France. That's a big comparison. Like there is soccer power. They are an absolute power. They have a huge population base. All those things are true. But the fact is the French development system is like no other in the world. They develop players like crazy. And a lot of it has to do with playing in communities when you're young, but with professional coaches. And it has to do with teams there. So let's say the teams there, the Ligue 1 teams, they pay a tax. And part of their tax goes to developing soccer in France. So imagine if the Oilers had to pay, what would be a fair taxation rate? Here you go. The Oilers people are like, what? What's he talking? Fair taxation rate on what their profits are a year. And say, you have to
just say hypothetically $1 million just to keep
it would be probably more than that. But just say like a percentage of your money would go as a tax, but the tax doesn't go to, it actually just goes to minor hockey in Alberta. And with that money, we start eliminating volunteers from positions. Because volunteers are really important in sports, but they're also a real problem in sports. And so instead of your kid being coached by someone's dad who's going to favor their own kid or be really tough on their own kid, because there's two types of dad coaches, have someone's parent be the association president that guarantees their kid gets to play AAA. Did I just say that? Oh, yeah, because that happens. Where someone volunteers to be the treasurer or the equipment manager. And this is all to keep I'm going to tell you, I know it's a terrible stereotype, but if you want to find the 4 worst kids on every minor hockey team,
Coaches' kids.
Equipment manager, team treasurer, league president. Those are the ones.
It's seriously there would be I got kids I grew up with. I'm like, how is that kid on the team?
Yeah, and it's terrible. And it's not. You know what? I sound mean this way, but that's just the way that it goes. But when you eliminate that, and let's say you have professional paid coaches, and I use this example. Would you let your kid go to kindergarten or grade 1 and be taught by a volunteer? So I'm like, I'm just a parent. I'm just going to come in here and teach you guys. I don't have a teaching degree, whatever. I don't need it. But we seem to be fine with it in minor sports, right? We're just fine with it. And we're paying through the nose already. Minor sports are super expensive. So I don't love the idea of PDP, but I do love the idea that that French model where you have taxation and such, and it spreads back to the sport that it helps that the coaches are professionals, and that your kids are playing in communities and stuff. And then again, the French are a lot like other people in Europe. They don't really believe in rep sports too young, too early. And they identify the kids because they have pros watching the kids, and when they're playing community league, and they're like, okay, this kid might be special. This kid might be special. This kid might be the next Thierry Henry. This kid might be the next, Zidane. But they don't. It's just so different. But PDP in Canada, oh boy, I'd shoot the whole thing to the moon. I really would. And I'm not saying that because my daughter didn't make it. I already had this feeling before she was in the process. And I wish I could take everyone from Canada Soccer and show them all the kids who are bawling their eyes out after a game when they're 12 because they know the scouts are watching them and what have you, and say, this is what you've created, and this is why these kids won't play soccer when they're 20. This is why these kids won't be, some of these kids, when they get onto their real lives and what have you, won't be playing in a Thursday night rec league where they get together with their friends anymore because they're going to hate this game. And you have done this. You have done this, and they're not going to watch the sport. They're not going to support the game because you have turned it into a trauma for them. And this is, we're getting to the point where sports is becoming downright abusive to kids. Like, downright, when I say it, for taking the fun, but we're getting to the point where we're being downright abusive to our children in some of the decisions that we're making with minor sport. And that might be that might be my next book, by the way. But it's the, what we're doing to their mental health. And why? And a lot of this is because, I'm going to say it, parents want to wear a jacket. Parents want to wear the sweater. Parents want something to brag about. And parents want to live their broken dreams through their children. Right? Just like you said, minor league guys trying to get his kid a minor league deal.
Yeah.
Living my broken dream through my kid. And if you do that, you might be a bad parent. You just might be. And we have to stop being nice about it. It's okay to judge people that way. If you're trying to live your broken dream through your kid, check your head. Your kid's their own person.
With the book Leveling the Ice, which again you can go purchase. You started this a few years ago. What's the biggest takeaway you're hoping people get from if they read this book?
I think that it gets back to the fact that hockey is now recognized as a race problem. And now it's about how do we address it. We're on to that next phase of this journey for the sport, which is what an understanding that the next generation has got to be more diverse in this game, and that we have been insanely slow in this process. Insanely slow in this process. We've made some progress, but compared to other things in society, hockey is coming along very slowly and has changed the way that we think about this game a little bit. Because honestly, and I wrote this at the end, this is not meant to be, the game is wonderful. The game is, in my own way, I feel like this is my own love letter to the game. Saying, I love you so much. I want other people to share with this of what an awesome game it is. And I think back, the last couple Stanley Cups, thinking this should have a wider audience. This should be embraced by more people. How do we get that game seen where people were talking about the Panthers, Oilers, Stanley Cups like they would have been talking about Super Bowls or NBA finals or soccer championships? How do we get it to that level? And that is by getting to a wider audience. And it's really so important. Because I love this game so much. I really do. And I think we all do. I think most of the listeners, or Oilers fans, and they nothing would make me happier than to see this, a deeper, wider audience for this game.
Again, Leveling the Ice, Confronting Racism in Hockey, Steve Sandor's newest book that you can get in a hardcover that he didn't think was going to happen. He's Tom Gazzola, Steve Sandor, also of Postmedia, Iwanyk with you here on The Hangout, presented by Sentinel Storage, Canada Storage experts, more than 2 decades helping Canadians through life transitions. Canadian storage provider. Be sure to buy Canadian. 12 weeks free on all units for fall savings. Get that deal until September 30th at sentinel.ca. Coming up at 11 o'clock, it is The Lock Shop, myself and Dusty. We've got two guys in a goalie. EST Afternoons, The Reed Wilkins Show with Jay Mill, live at the Metro Cinema at Garmino Theater as 6 o'clock door, 7 o'clock tonight. It is the 2025 ESTs presented by Edmonton Sports Talker annual award show to honor the past year of EST. So that's going to be fun. That you've got your suits all or your tux all ready to go.
Ready to go.
We do an award show.
Yep. Award shows are good.
You've been a part of a few various events and stuff.
Yes, I've had to. You stood and shook hands. Yes, done that. Been there, done that.
What's the biggest tip you would give me for putting on an award show tonight for the second time?
Make sure your fly's done up.
Oh, that's a good one. That's a really good one.
And just, it's not about the actual part where you're in an award show where you're talking or if you're doing a presentation. That part's fine. It's the part where you have to be quiet and let's say someone else is talking and you do that thing where you become in the background. Let's say, and I see this when politicians talk and they have the other people behind them. And you're like, you're that person, and you're like, don't do anything silly. Like, don't do anything that looks like you're looking off.
Just look straight.
Look straight, but look natural. Don't look like you're a serial killer. Like, don't just like glare at people. But yeah, no, it's those things are fun. So yeah, well, like it's gonna be it'll be good. It's but sports stuff, so it's gonna be fine.
Oh yeah, it's year two. So last year it happened. This year something's gonna happen. We'll be there. Things will happen. We'll see how it all goes. The awards, the envelopes have officially been sealed with the winners.
Love it.
The accounting firm of Iwanyk LLP will keep that tightly guarded until we get to the Metro Cinema and it gets handed out.
Will anyone go on stage and slap or punch anyone?
Well, there's actually at this moment.
Are we going to have a Chris Rock, Will Smith kind of moment at this award show?
I hope not.
We're not 100%
for the sake of everybody.
We don't. Well, there is planned protests outside of the venue beforehand as people are upset. There's a contingent of people that are upset at the lack of respect given to the Lock Shop, the show that's at 11 o'clock, and they want their voices heard. That there's a lack of respect for the Lock Shop, which. I'm on the other side. As someone who is a regular contributor, I would say, to the Lock Shop every so often, I would say I wouldn't protest. I would just use the next year to amplify the voice of the Lock Shop as much as you can to keep it top of mind. But we might actually have a protest night. So does that lead to a Kanye West moment or Will Smith, Chris Rock moment? You want to know, this is one of those years, I'm not so sure.
I just want someone to say Wu-Tang is for the children tonight. Just make sure to say that. Someone will say that. If you're accepting an award tonight at this show, the challenge has been laid down that in your speech at some point, I want to hear Wu-Tang is for the children.
Supersized Indiana Jones, hashtag justice for Lock Shop. So apparently that's happening. We'll see. I've heard rumblings of signs being made.
I respect this movement.
Yeah.
Well, promote the Lock Shop more this year. Go that way. I think you're hurting your movement by protesting. I think you're just hurting. Well, I have to go in the Lock Shop after this. Do you want to get to Play Alberta's Over Under, which is brought to you by Play Alberta, playalberta.ca. Download the app, visit them, playalberta.ca. Promo codes for this month, EST Sports, YUG50, deposit 50, get a free 50. Improved odds in all major North American leagues this year, including the National Football League. Sunday is the first preseason game for those Edmonton Oilers. If I set the over-under on that day when Connor signs, what do you think? You think this can get done in less than a week, or is this going a while? Is this going into the regular season?
No, I'm going to go under on that. So I think I would say Sunday. Yeah.
You think it gets done?
It's done? It's done before Sunday?
Well, I just don't think that you'd want to have this hanging over more of camp and stuff like that. So I think it gets done. I think it's just the point's been made. It's dragged out a little bit. I think everyone was expecting this to be as nice and neat and tidy as Draisaitl's, but the CBA's changed, and if I was Connor McDavid, I'd be signing a short-term deal, knowing the salary cap's going up and thinking there's more money to be made, and
Cha-ching.
And as well, I think, I don't think it was meant to be anything more, but there's a message there to the team.
You think this is a message?
I think it's a little bit that we're just a little short, right? Like in a couple of years, and there's something about getting this close, a couple of years in a row where you're like. But I also think there's a realization, and I'm talking about a deeper thing here about as close as the Oilers may be, there's this realization that Florida is a monster. They're the best team that this league has seen in 25 years.
Mm-hmm.
They're the best organization this league has seen in 25 years. I've saw it up close. I was in Miami for the Stanley Cup. I got toured their facilities, got an understanding of why they are what they are. They're going to win the East again this year. And they're going to be the favorites to win the Stanley Cup again. They're going to be a favorite to three-peat.
They should. They have the same guys coming back.
But it's a deeper thing there. It's not just about their talent. It's about how close-knit they are. And we talk about teams being close-knit, but I don't know if I've seen a team as close-knit as that team. And we from the outside, when watching the Oilers lose and stuff, that you kind of go, oh, they're kind of jerks and what have you, and Kachuk and the taunting and what have you. But what their setup is incredible, and players around the league see it, and they're envious of what they have. That facility they built there, the $75 million training facility where the players all live within a couple of blocks of it. They're all neighbors. They're all neighbors. They live in this one area in Fort Lauderdale. They take golf carts to practice, and they just tag along with each other. They love this lifestyle. And it was like when Brad Marchand went there, it was like, oh, I'm a rental. I want to stay here for the rest of my life. Right? It was that quick. And that's what you have to compete with. And I'm getting back to the McDavid thing. There's this monster that sits in the NHL right now. And it ain't the Oilers. It's Florida Panthers. And to get over that hump, the Oilers have gotten close 2 years ago, weren't as close this year to them. Problem is that the Oilers are up against the cap. Florida's got wherewithal because Florida's got some capital about the players wanting to be there so badly. So you need something. You need to sort of light a fire in the organization's butt.
But isn't the flip side to that then, though, is that if you need to live, you just said it, players, the wherewithal, leave something. Does that then not come to Connor to leave more?
It's a good question, right? It's a good question.
Because what's the highest salary that the Panthers have right now?
Was it like 10 million?
Yeah, and those guys take the thing. Got to understand, you're making 10.5 in Florida. You're making more than Leon because you're not paying state tax, right? That's the huge competitive advantage that some of those teams have, where you don't have state tax in Florida. You can take a little less money, but still have more take home pay than a guy making more on paper in other places. So they've got that too. But yeah, there's that argument, right? Like, are you going to leave something on the table? Or, the argument can be made that no NHL team yet with the Uber contracts has won. There tend to be teams that have balance, right? That spread it out. Like, they have star players, but they haven't. Like, the Toronto Edmonton example of loading up your top 3 or 4 players and then trying to plug holes on your third and fourth lines with bargain deals to try to, offset the money you spent on the top end. The Toronto Edmonton's come close. And I'll say, Edmonton's won the conference, came within a goal of Florida 2 years ago. So they got as close as you can get. But that model has yet to be proven that the NBA type model in the NHL hasn't proven to be successful.
I do feel like the Pens and the Blackhawks were close to that.
Yeah.
But the cap wasn't at such a high level that there could then be the discrepancy of the highest salary jumping up so much and eating so much. I know it's all percent-wise almost relative, but it's a lot easier. Instead of 8, okay, instead of 9, you take 8. Mm-hmm. Here we're looking at, instead of 17, could he take 15, which the 2 million is 2 million. I don't know. I did feel like the Pens for a while, especially, they had Crosby, they had Malkin, they had Letang, they had Stahl, and then they filled everyone else out, and Fleury. And then they would fill everyone else out, and it would change almost year to year.
Yeah.
They had a bit of success.
There's a reason for that, too. Douglas Hunter wrote a book about that years ago, about, even the Oilers did that in the 80s. If you look at the number of guys and the Oilers, who only won 1 cup or 2 cups, right? In that period, because you do have to change it over because there's a hunger level, right? Like you don't want your team getting too long in the tooth. You want to have this hunger level where you're winning it for the guys that haven't won it yet, right? Like that you're winning it for this guy that hasn't won. Again, like you watch Florida, how they went nuts for Nate Schmidt.
Yeah, I was about to say Nate Schmidt.
Yeah, it's like they knew he might not be back, which he didn't come back.
Right.
But he's got his ring. Right now, he's got his ring. He's got his name on the cup, and you need to have that story on the team. It really motivates because it does. It's long. Like hockey season is stupid long, right? Like it's too long. Like we go into the end of June.
9 months from I think will be from start of preseason to likely Stanley Cup
really
being given
long
out.
time.
Last year,
9 months. Like the NFL's 6
when I'm
from
used,
preseason to Super Bowl.
yeah, it's almost getting as bad as soccer hockey. Like
it's ridiculous.
It's like the and last year I felt because it was that first cup. I was like, what? The season started already? Like, I'm not ready for this.
Yeah.
I think now I'm almost in that cycle where I'm like, it just never stops.
Yeah.
Right? Where but like last year, I gotta tell you, it was even as much as I love it because of like the adrenaline high of a cup run and getting so close. And the start of the season last year, I just felt like, okay, all right, let's just get through this. Let's just get to the playoffs. Let's just get through this. Like it felt like the season was something you got through.
I've been saying that for a couple of years.
Yeah, and now it's going to feel like that again, but maybe at least with some changes on this team.
Well, we also got the Olympic break.
An Olympic break,
True.
But that will be maybe a little bit different. But again, it feels like, oh wow, we're starting again, and I just don't know how the guys' bodies can handle like such little time off, and then they're right back at it, and the grind of this, and adding more games to the schedule, and it's just like,
and now you have the playoff cap. Your game day roster has to be cap compliant. It doesn't include prorated contracts. It's the full contracts. That's in effect for this season, though.
yeah.
And that is going to fascinate me with this season because
And also,
what are the Panthers going to be able to like? Well, part of it is what's going to happen at the deadline for most of these teams.
well, the deadline too. If you're up against the cap now, you can't make those NBA kind of trades anymore, where you're given salary from somewhere else, right?
Yes.
You can't get the third party to help you with salary. So now, and also for those teams that don't spend, they lose that leverage of being able to give money away to get some draft picks or what have you. So the floor teams are kind of like going to be looking at this, and I know that talk about manipulating the cap and all of this, and I feel like the NHL decided to swat a fly with a sledgehammer in this case. Like I think that some of this stuff is a little bit excessive. I do not mind the cap compliance for the playoffs. I thought that was the solution. That was the thing that everyone was complaining about, was the burying guys on the injured list and then them coming off in the playoffs when you don't have to be cap compliant. And you can Nikita Kucherov, the Mark Stone situation,
Vander Kane.
like, and it's like now you've hit that. That was the thing. But they added all of these other factors, and I feel like it's going to stagnate the trade market a bit. Like, and I think it is going to handcuff a team like the Oilers. The Oilers are going to have to be very creative. Or being able to ship out dollar for dollar is hard in today's NHL. No one wants to do that unless you give them something, a sweetener, right? Where the Oilers are going to be like giving away sweeteners in order to make deals. I don't love all of the changes, just because we like this kind of stuff and it creates discussion, as much as I hate the whole idea of trading players the way that we do it, but that's a different discussion for another day.
Yeah, I'm going to be fascinated because I don't think the executives of the GMs were expecting that to happen for this season. They're supposed to be in effect for the next salary cap, and then all of a sudden, just 2 weeks ago or whatever, the NHL announced a bunch of different things with the CBA, some that are now going to some next year, and like the staggering of it, and playoff cap coming in right away for this year. I don't think some of those teams were expecting, but I think this hurts the Panthers a little bit too. As good as a monster they are, they were able to go and fill needs when they needed them at the deadline last year. They won't be able to go to, like, you're not getting a Seth Jones an addition at the deadline for you, because you're going to need the whole cap hit.
And then Brad Marchand.
And then
Ekblad comes back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's going to be a fascinating way to see how that all fully plays out.
Yeah. I think that we are going to come to a time in the NHL where I think with this, when we talk about the schedule and the playoff grind and what have you, and I mean, the grind's a grind. I know there's people who are out there thinking, I remember when I watched the playoffs in the 80s, it was back to back, one night off, back to back, one night off, and then they went again, right? Like, but I think what eventually is going to happen in the NHL is that rosters will need to be large and at some point, like a couple more players on the roster to give coaches the freedom to rotate players a little bit more. I think that the days...
You want full soccer here.
Well, I just think it's ridiculous that some of these guys are being asked to play 4 games in 7 nights. And yeah, like especially like if you're, teams now more and more are openly saying guys are hurt when they're not really that hurt and they're resting them, right? Or they're hurt. They could probably play, but they're not going to.
Just a little nicked up.
Just a little nicked up.
We'll get them in 2 days.
Yeah, but like, yeah, we're on the road for 2 and we solidified our playoff spot like a month ago and it's March. Why does this guy need to be playing right now?
Yeah.
And I think we just got to be a lot more open about it. I think that they just need to be like soccer teams are rotating the squad today.
That's right. That's why I said that they should have like a League Cup mid-season or throughout the season. And then those are the perfect games to rotate.
Yeah.
When they're not for 2 points for the regular standing, it's just some league game. The middle end teams, they can maybe go a little harder for that one. But if you're the Panthers, if you're the Oilers, that's a perfect night to be like, we're rotating guys.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like, I don't know. Like there's just,
Go to like a 60 game schedule or something like, or
the money
65.
is out there, and then we keep
cut.
it seems like we keep adding to it, like adding games, adding stuff, adding whatever.
Well, the 84 game schedule is coming back.
But thankfully, we're going to lose preseason games out of that one.
Well, that is true.
Yeah, preseason is just like it's ridiculous. Yeah. Like players now they keep themselves in such good shape in the off season. It's not like the old days where it's like, okay, they got them 20 pounds over and they have to work that off for a couple of weeks. And like the coaches know, like it's amazing. I mean, I love Edmonton because of this, because it's such a hockey market. But like even last year, it was like, wow, like all of our debate is about who's going to be the last guy in the fourth line. And like this is like, really, this is like what we're trying to say is almost all decisions have been made going into camp. We know what this team is.
Yeah.
This camp feels like it's going on forever. I haven't gone yet. I've not gone down yet. I haven't gone down yet. I don't know when yet I'm gonna go. Don't really need to right now. And it's like,
because officially it begins when?
Tomorrow
it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Medicals and physicals.
Yeah, that's fine.
Hurry up and wait day.
Yeah, that's the other thing too. I mean, that's part of it. Nowadays, it's so closed off. Like we just wait in the media room, and I know this is a first world problem. This is media bitching with media problems. Yeah. But it used to be we'd have run of the rink and we could go around and talk to guys. Yep. They would say like, if he's not in actual on the bike or like in his VO, if he's just in the hallway or if he's in his dressing room stall, go talk to him. That was the way it used to be. And it was like, there was like all these guys filtering through camp and you just find guys and you could do whatever. But now it's really very regimented. The whole system is very regimented. And the NHL wants that to stop, by the way. The NHL has told teams they need to stop this, but no one's listening.
Teams push back. They want less access.
I will just say that last year, someone from the NHL asked me how a story. They knew I was working on a certain story and a certain team I had been asking for help with, and they said, "Did that team get this person to you?" I said, "No." They said they weren't going to do it, and that NHL person went off in a huff to go. So I have to make a phone call because like the NHL is desperate. Like they have a term at the NHL right now. And I know the analytics crazies will not like to hear this. I didn't mean to call you crazy. The analytics wonks. But there's a term that comes from the other leagues, and the NHL is trying from the front office to hammer this down to the teams. Humans over highlights. Meaning that people want to know who the athletes are. They want to know their stories. They want to know what makes them tick. Mm-hmm. NHL players have a real hard time with this. They have a real hard time opening up. But they see in other leagues, you know more about the guy. You know more about who they are, what they are.
The Stars love to talk in the other leagues. Yeah. Especially football and basketball.
And even their politics, they don't hide so much. But the NHL is like, getting away from this. Now, mind you, again, into the book about NHL and politics, there are players who are political. But in the NHL, unlike other leagues, I'm just saying this, the breakdown maybe shows how white it is. There's a lot of MAGA. there's a lot of MAGA in the NHL, right? Like, and even like when Wayne Gretzky and Bobby Orr are endorsing Trump, right? It sends a message that hockey is pretty white, right? Like, and again, everyone has a right to their political beliefs, but you're like, wow, this is very different than you say if you're around the NBA or around the NFL, and what players talk about. Now, mind you, it's a much more Canadian sort of league, and it said, but the whiteness of it, and you think back to even Tim Thomas refusing to go to meet Obama. You think about like other players and who they've endorsed. Chris Chelios, hardcore Republican. Think about who was very active in trying to get some Republicans elected in Illinois. Hockey's has a history that when players, and again too, it's hard, and I mean this in a wider discussion. It's hard to believe that owners are bought into diversity than when Stan Kroenke goes, and Stan Kroenke's not just an NHL owner. He owns the Nuggets, he owns the Rams, he owns Arsenal.
Yeah.
Like Arsenal's just big. Like Arsenal's worth more than all of his other teams combined. But not just the Avalanche. But when Stan Kroenke gives millions of dollars to the Trump campaign, and yet you're telling players, oh, diversity standards and all of this, as a player, you're kind of going, huh?
If they think about it.
NBA players think about it.
Yeah.
NFL players think about it.
Yeah.
I don't think NHL players think. I don't think anyone in the Avalanche think about it.
I don't know.
And I wonder if it's something that Saka thinks about, right? Like thinking like my paycheck's coming from a guy.
Arsenal player.
Yeah.
For people.
Yeah, but like superstar, right? Like true legit superstar. But when you think about all the players they've brought in, that do they think about the fact that, yeah, the boss.
Do they focus on what the owner's doing at all?
Yeah. I think that's something that we don't connect the dots with a lot. And that comes with, when you look at the amount of money that owners give to Republicans, and ESPN did a thing on this a couple of years ago, like how much money sports owners in North America donate to Republicans as opposed to other political causes. And you're like, oh boy. And yet, you have all of these initiatives and what have you. And we could get deeper into that. And as I said, Howard Bryant stuff is way better than mine when it comes to this stuff. If you read like any books by Howard Bryant, it will really make you change the way you think about a lot of things that happen at sporting events that are supposedly patriotic and things like that. And it might make you change your mind about things. And I mean, Howard Bryant writes about a lot of powerful things, especially a few years ago. I mean, John McCain, when he was alive, had asked sports teams to stop doing the veteran stuff. Saying,
really?
Yeah, like it's
he's
embarrassing.
Like he was the ultimate veteran.
Yeah, and he said like, because what had happened was, I don't know if you're familiar, a few teams got caught using actors. They weren't using veterans because veterans didn't want to do it.
Wow.
Because veterans felt that I shouldn't be just me. A lot of veterans feel like that. Like, I mean, I'm not speaking for everyone, but like there are some that feel like I don't want to stand up at Yankee Stadium. Mm-hmm. They have found out that the U.S. military was paying money.
Yeah, they were actually paying for that one.
For God Bless America to be played in the seventh inning stretches of baseball games.
Really?
They were paying the NFL too.
They're paying the NFL money.
Yeah.
This is a paid advertisement for your kid to join the military.
Yeah.
It's not meant to be like, hey, we love America.
We love our country and all that.
This is become this very financial kind of transaction between sports. And I don't write about but certainly that Howard Bryant does, and he is wonderful about it. And it really opened my eyes to about some of those links that we see in sport between our patriotism, and I put that in air quotes, and financial obligations that come. I don't think it's as pervasive in Canada, but definitely with the American teams. And to the point where there was, as I said, John McCain said, like, this has got to stop, guys. Like, this isn't real. Like, this is not real. And I think if I was to say to you, and I know it's going to be dangerous territory, if we were watching a Soviet soccer game from the 1960s and there were fighter jets flying overhead and there was military like doing salutes at halftime, we'd be like, Soviet Union, that's what it is. but we've done the exact same thing now to our sports.
I love the flyovers.
I did too. I was about to say, but I love that flyover.
Yeah, the
love the
flyovers are great. Like when the
flyover.
snowbirds come over the Grey Cup, it's like boom. It's like But you know what I don't understand? I've seen them. I've seen it a couple times. Is flyovers of dome stadiums. I do not.
Yeah, I don't understand that one either.
Like,
Like Super Bowl or something, and be like the Houston, it's domed and everything. You just see a plane go over and like, okay, cool. No one inside got that.
For the record, I hate dome stadiums. I hate them all. I hate them with a passion.
Before you read Howard Bryan, you're going to want to read Leveling the Ice from Steve Sandor, latest book. Go get it now. Google it. You can buy chapters Indigo, Amazon. Go to your local bookstore like Audrey's Books, though, and request it. They'll bring in any books and stuff. So if they don't have it there, they'll bring some extra ones in and all of that. Steve, thank you for coming in. Thank you for this.
Thanks.
Congrats on this. I know took you a long time, and you were doing a lot of work on this, but I'm excited to dive in as well.
Big labor of love, and now that it's done, I'm like, wow, it's done.
Well done.
You could also read his stuff in Postmedia. So again, thank you, Steve. We've got ESTs tonight, 6 o'clock doors, 7 o'clock will be the show. I will just notice that I will try to record it. We'll see if it can go up on our YouTube tomorrow or the day after, or they're not guaranteeing that will happen. We got Lock Shop coming up next. We've got Two Guys and a Goalie, EST afternoons, as well as the Reed Wilkins Show with Jay Milne live at the Metro Cinema in advance of those ESTs. On behalf of Steve Sandor, author of Leveling the Ice, Tom Gazzola, I'm Iwanyk. Thanks for tuning in to the EST Hangout, presented by Sentinel Storage right here on Edmonton Sports Talk, your clear choice for Edmonton Sports, presented by Play Alberta. Lock Shop in a few minutes. Don't go anywhere.
Let's go. There you go, right in front of the camera.
First-time guest, long-time listener, fan of the original draft commissioner.
Welcome to the EST Hangout, presented by White Claw Hard Seltzer. The difference is clear. Matt Iwanyk, Tom Gazzola with here, joining us today.